we're going to have a bit of a deep dive on Signalgate with Alex from Wire. Alex, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. This should be a pretty fun conversation. There's a lot to unpack.
Absolutely. And he's got a great article he's written about this, so I'll include a reference to that as well. So, Johnny, how are you today?
Look, I'm excited. Full disclosure, I'm biased to Wire. Um, they're investors who led their last round, Scipio Partners and Roland Denner. Roland's a dear friend of mine, although we're not allowed to communicate right now because of whatever reasons. We both lost a ton of money together. And when you lose a lot of money with people, usually things go wrong and you can't communicate for other reasons. But I love the man. He's one of the smartest men ever. I was around when he was making the investment in Wire. I've met the last CEO. I've met Alan Turek, obviously. Wire's been around, and the whole conversation back then was people need to know about this. People need to be aware about it. And look, what better time now? I mean, the complete embarrassment of Signalgate is unreal. I mean, even the Signalgate CEO with this argument, with his marketing strategy, now included the opportunity for the VP to randomly add you to a group chat. I mean, I don't even know. I mean, it's exciting. The only thing is, I think the market's crashing right now. But other than that, I'm excited to hear where because your story is great, and the way you frame that story, I think is really important for people to understand. People think everything is secure and everything is safe, and being a guy who used to own a messaging hubs, we store your messages. So you've got these PE firms or whatever owning these messaging hubs and they're reading your messages. So what if they have a deal with somebody else? They can easily pull up somebody's number. So there's so many aspects to Wire that make it really important. And for enterprises, I'm big on the enterprises. There's only so many government organizations. I think every enterprise should have Wire. So I'll let you talk a little bit more about, I just want to make that disclosure that I'm biased.
All right, good. Fair enough. Maybe for those who aren't super familiar, I could just give a bit of a background and just to maybe establish some categories.
Yeah.
When you think about, so Wire is it's beyond a secure messaging platform because messaging implies sort of text.
Yeah.
It's what you would think of as and at this point, an enterprise collaboration platform, but that's built from the ground up to be extremely secure in a variety of ways. But what does that mean? I think it's helpful to just think in the context of, right, you had text messages and sort of old style messaging platforms that were pretty much, very, very open and insecure by design because it just wasn't a concern at a certain point in time in the past. If you're writing on a telecom infrastructure, everybody could consider that to be secure, right? And that was a quaint assumption.
Yeah.
But beyond that, what happened was we can think about in the enterprise space is that in the 2010s, you had the rise of what you would consider the start of enterprise messaging and collaboration. Think about Microsoft Link and then Skype and then the acquisition of Skype and Skype for Business is all kind of merged together and then eventually became Microsoft Teams, right? Which is part of the overall Microsoft sort of portfolio and is bundled in with a lot of their licenses now. So a lot of companies use that.
Yeah.
The most famous sort of enterprise collaborations would be Slack, obviously.
Yeah.
Also came up in and around that time, I think 2012, 2013, something like that, if I'm recalling correctly. And so you had this kind of rise of that, and there are some other smaller players, but those are the two big famous ones. And then in the collaboration space as well, you had sort of the OG sort of video conferencing platforms, and then, WebEx and others. And then the newfangled ones like Zoom, right? And all of this blew up, particularly during the pandemic when remote hybrid work just, kind of went off the chain and just became a normal thing to do. So everybody was on these collaboration systems more than ever. So you have the whole category established and so many people are working it. And in fact, you can think of these collaboration suites as sort of really at the heart of most enterprise digital work now, right? I mean, you're messaging constantly, as much or more than sending emails. Like everybody
Yeah.
hates emails now, although they're good for some things for sure. And then, but internally, it's messaging and then quick chats, quick calls, meetings, video conferences and stuff like that. So this is, and then if you combine that with some file sharing, you're covering 70% of your workflow, right?
Yeah.
Inside of an organization, whether you're sharing classified plans or not. What we saw in Signalgate was a classic set of a group or a team communicating about a work topic,
Yeah.
which just happened to be military nature in that case, but it could be, the next marketing campaign,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
right? And or intellectual property, or an M&A, or your competitive sales, pipeline.
Yeah.
And
It's endless. It's really endless.
all these things. And so you have these classic enterprise collaboration suites, and they are meant to be closed systems, and you have to log into them, and maybe you have a single sign-on through your identity provider, and you have, it's exclusive in a sense. And so as a closed system, it provides some organizational boundaries, which is good. But those platforms are not really built, generally speaking, to be highly secure.
No.
In the sense that they use the equivalent of sort of like, just any kind of web server sort of like encryption, but they have a lot of ways in which they leave a lot of things open by design. Some things incredibly open by design, actually almost dangerously open. But they also adhere to kind of a model which assumes that admins are totally trustworthy gods in a system, right? And that's problematic because if an admin has godlike, sort of default root level powers in a system, right? For those who relate to that term, then you're one credential hack away from being owned. And the heart of all your information getting owned like crazy. And a really great example of this is Disney's Slack instance.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Huge.
So now the full story was never really finally brought out, at least to my knowledge, in a public way. So it was an insider thing, which is scary, or it was a credential hack, which is equally scary. But either way, malicious outsiders got access to and exfiltrated like a massive amount, I think a terabyte plus of all the most sensitive communications inside their Slack instance.
Could have been a new FCC chair who's going out to Disney right now for DEI. With the dog face, drive the car. Could have been him.
Who knows? I mean,
he knew he was going to get in.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm just making a joke. But it's
totally.
just staggering. Staggering.
Yeah, but the reason why, I mean, you could, the model of like how those systems work is that they give godlike admin access to everything. Yeah. And that's one of those sort of, fundamental sort of things you have to just think about is you give someone godlike access and that god may fall.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Every
just
time.
assumes it's either within the network or without. So it's just a binary sort of tiering rather than, this is our, let's say our 2026 sales plan. And only the sales team and basically, CXOs within our organization are allowed access to it. And there's no way of being able to control that information flow over that collaboration platform.
Right. And the spirit of collaboration is meant to be open and flowing, but it has to be somewhat balanced by, this idea of zero trust, which is, need to know. And there's another great example, sadly, with Slack about this, which is the whole Rippling deal lawsuit. If you're familiar with that. No. So Rippling is filing this lawsuit against Deal because they have accused them of planting a corporate spy in their, I think, accounts payables or some, some nonsense.
100%. Happens every 5 minutes.
And then that person was snooping on the deal was a competitor of Rippling on
Okay.
the competitive pipeline opportunities channel, which was left wide open apparently.
Okay.
So this person could go in and pull information out of what competitive deals Rippling was working on to displace the deal.
Mhm.
And according, the allegation is that person then was feeding that to the deal executives, and Rippling did a sort of like a sting operation where they created a fake channel,
Sure.
let and kind of through some weird back channel, let the deal, executives know about it. This is their allegation. And then all of a sudden they saw that person, the insider
Oh,
spy that they suspected, snooping in that channel, like as if they've
gotcha.
been alerted, like, hey, go look at that thing. So that's all, in the realm of, kind of lawsuits and allegations here.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show that oftentimes there's kind of pretty a high disregard for just, should this be that open, right?
Yeah.
Should it be private, let
Yeah.
alone actually secure? So there's a whole culture of that. And then because particularly a lot of big tech companies tend to monetize data, right? You
Yeah.
think of like how
Yep.
much data has been mined for, AI model development. And, big companies like Microsoft and others, oftentimes they're quite actually transparent in even in their filings. Like we're mining the data from, metadata from our customers to develop models. So one of the incentives is to have things be more open so they can mine metadata. I don't think this is a controversial statement.
No.
That
No.
this is part of their commercial, model is to monetize at the very least metadata from
Yeah.
customers
Yeah.
so that they can develop models and other things of value that they can go turn around and charge for. I mean, you could see that as a legitimate product development strategy, but it's also, as an organization, you have to say, does, when I adopt a tool, am I also signing up for a culture that is, and a development culture that
Yeah.
leaves the barn doors open, not so much so the horses can get out, but that other things can get in.
Yeah.
And that leaves things open to things like in Microsoft Teams, they have ability to federate Microsoft Team backends,
Yeah.
but they by default leave that open. Like they leave the federation's door open,
Oh,
and you have to explicitly lock it down, which has led to situations where people can, like criminals can federate with an open backend federation door
yeah.
Teams and then come in and impersonate your own IT people and say like,
Oh,
and do credential hacks.
gotcha.
So there's a whole culture in when you have the commercial motivation to monetize metadata to want things to be more open. Also, there's ways in which, vendors want to create sort of money-making opportunities for channels, and systems integrators. So they're like, okay, we'll leave all the security doors open, and then you guys can get paid to go close them, right? So, but all this is kind of goes into a culture of like your data is, even though there's sort of these enterprise boundaries around these classic systems, they tend to be dangerously open in multiple ways.
Yeah.
So that's
But it's not going to change.
and that's
None
not
of
going
this is
to
going
change
to
because the
change.
commercial motivations are so foundational to the
Well, our country's built on the stock market. As far as the USA, I know you guys have a lot of deals internationally with
yeah
governments and some military stuff. I know
yeah
because I keep up on Wire quite a bit. But I think the challenge here in the US is there's been 1 million data breaches already. We
right
got this guy, Alex Khaleesi from Umail. Every day there's a new data breach. Everybody's information's gone. You got SIM swaps going on. You've got people saying that my phone number was sucked into my like they sucked my phone number into my phone at Signal. How does a phone number get sucked into your chat, like into your phone? It's just insane. I think the public is numb. One out of three people in the U.S. have been defrauded for $500 or more, and now you've got SIM swaps. Three alone were $500 million. I mean, T-Mobile just paid a settlement for $33 million. There's the public in the United States is completely numb. I
right
think
I think
Signal Wire, yeah, numb,
I
numb.
think yeah we've been sort of inured to this idea that there's you can't be secure, but I think it was the former head of kind of cybersecurity for I think within Homeland Security basically kind of said, hey, we don't have a security problem. We have a faulty software problem here in this country. It's like insecurity by design, because the point is monetization, not
Yeah.
keeping data safe, right? And so that's sort of like, it's the US is a money-making Wild West culture, right? So
Not going to change.
and that's not going to change. So the thing is, then you have some good innovation that happened, and Signal was actually an important innovator, right? In the end-to-end encryption.
Yes.
They created this kind of algorithm called a double ratchet, right? Which is essentially a more secure way of rotating keys, so that you can so if on one set of like in-use keys is compromised, what went before and what comes after isn't, right? You're just changing keys rapidly enough that you just don't lose that much. It's an important innovation, and their end-to-end security. The Signal protocol is used by WhatsApp, and the Signal protocol is a very secure protocol. And double ratchet is quite secure. There's two issues though and the reason why consumer apps like Signal and WhatsApp are totally inappropriate for organizational use, and they're perfectly fine as long as you don't mind that, if like in a US case, I mean, if you're outside of US and you don't want surveillance backdoors because of Patriot Act, if you're concerned about that, then you may not want to deal with a US based security company. That's a slightly different thing. But the end-to-end security is perfectly fine. And if you want to plan your family vacations or whatever, great. But these apps are built to be social. They're built to
They're all social sites. Every one of them is a social site. They're all social media. I mean, look who owns WhatsApp. I mean, and now Google's looking to do the same thing with RCS. They're all social media sites.
Right.
I think the important thing here is, how do you at Wire, because I had this challenging conversations with Roland when he first made the investment with you guys, how do you educate people? Because people do care.
Yeah.
People in this country do care, especially the new voters. They care about security.
Yeah.
But companies, look, we have 20,000 subscribers. I get messages from people all day long that want to disclose stuff that's happening in their company, and they're involved in it for whatever reasons, because we kind of, our brand is truth in telecoms. We just tell the truth. Truth is never really pretty, is it? So people are sending us all kinds of stuff. I think every company needs a Wire solution within there, especially with their people, because forget the government side. That's just a no-brainer. Right. But I mean, even on the government side, people are like, well, they can hack your phone and still see the screen. Yeah, but they're not going to hack everybody's phone unless they're looking to rob you. So the average person in a company that spends millions of dollars on marketing, millions of dollars on a new product launch, should not have to worry about that stuff being leaked because of being on Microsoft Teams. So I think my question to you is, how does Wire get the education out?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in this phase, we're starting to do more of this, right? Just to explain these things. Like, I mean, in the sense of people get confused. Well, it's encrypted, isn't it safe? Like the whole point you make of, like, we're talking about things being social, that just helping people to understand that the reason why it's not safe is not because it's encrypted or not encrypted. The reason is because it's meant to be virally inclusive. So it's super easy to include the wrong people.
Yeah.
There's no organizational boundaries on it at all. No. So what you need to have is you need to have something that does have organizational boundaries and ways to organize how you use it, so that you can tell like who's in, who's out. Like, is there a way to see if a guest has been invited? Right. Like that should be visually obvious. You should be able to turn that and turn it off. But the other, another basic thing is that security, like end-to-end encryption, should just be a given at this point, and the fact that, see, one of the games that oftentimes, particularly mainstream products play, they'll say, oh, we have that available, but you got to turn it on. And as we all know, if you or I have to turn on a security feature,
I can't even turn off Zoom user on my screen right now.
Right.
Let alone turn something on.
Yeah. It has
I'm
to be
a Zoom user. Just my Tintech Zoom user.
Yeah. So it's if you have to turn on security, it's not going to be there. You might as well not have that super strong security.
Yeah.
It has to be there always on by default. So I think so there's some things like that. Then the next thing is that you need to have a zero trust, but also a zero knowledge architecture. Zero trust is who should know, and that's sort of a practice. Zero knowledge is how a product is architected. What you want is a way in which servers to as great a degree as possible just like do not have access to anything, and the less access they have, not just to the private content, but even to metadata, the better, right? So, like that wire we talk oftentimes, we'll say, even if someone was to hack and totally own one of our servers, they wouldn't be able to get anything because everything, all the server is just a transport
Gotcha.
mechanism. But also, if you say, "Hey, we got end-to-end encryption," but guess what? We're going to take all everybody's keys and back them up and give an admin access to them. You've just kind of broken the model.
Yeah.
So there are ways in which you have to just get used to say, "Hey, in what cases or what use cases do you need things to be really secure?" And maybe for an organization that, hey, you got a huge Teams license that's included, but there are use cases like your board communication, a crisis communications, out of band channel should exist, right? And that should be secure so that if your primary platform gets, owned by a hacker like it did, or an insider like it did in Disney, that you have a really secure place to go to communicate and deal with it, for all sorts of different crisis communications. And there are probably topics like M&A and anything like that, that have high legal or very sensitive IP that should not be in mainstream and certainly not consumer. So I think one of the ways to think about it is, where can you start your journey to take on what now, like with Wire, we have a really enterprise class, set of collaboration tools. It's very easy. It's very much like any other tool you'd use, very friendly, easy to adopt. So the question then is like, where do you start rather than get hung up on like, oh my God, we have to change everything? No, you don't.
Yeah.
You gotta find a way to simplify this for people, because at the end of the day, even that is just a lot of words. There's got to be a simple message for people, and you got to be able to use this signal gate thing as an advantage. I mean, seriously, you guys are in a great position to help people not get in a bad position, whether it be signal gate or whether it be a dizzy situation. There needs to be a way to really market the hell out of this thing. I think that's really what you guys need to do, because it's a no-brainer. I can see 1,000 companies right now like, yeah, we want that.
Right, and we do.
But how do you make that message clear?
Yeah, and we are
I know you're growing.
More interest. I think, but what it comes down to in a lot of cases is helping people understand the nature of the problem, right? They're confused. And when you're confused, as a buyer, you might have some vague intention to do something, but you just don't know what the priority should be. So I think what we're trying to do is just get out and educate, like, what is the nature of the problem? Like, what is the problem with mainstream? Apps, why are they problematic?
Yeah, I thought it was complicated. Look, we have this new orange guy in charge, right? And they talked about when they just had the Salt Typhoon hack, right? Just had that big hack, and he was hacked. And they asked him a question. He goes, "Well, they make the phones, they make the laptops." Here's an 80-year-old man saying, "Of course they're hacking us. Of course they're spying." So people have just now accepted everything's being spied. If I'm working on a deal anywhere, I'm talking on the phone. If they're going to do anything, they're going to find a way to intercept stuff. So I won't even involve anything, whether it's email or messaging, because I know if it's and no, the deals I work on are not that important. I mean, they're important to me and to the people around us. But you got companies like Disney, you got publicly traded companies, you got Microsoft. I mean, these companies are so big with so many thousands and thousands of employees. There's always bad apples in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I do want to kind of in the sort of the spirit of truth telling, I do think that there has been, up until very recently, a real technological barrier to adoption by enterprises, which is the ability for end-to-end encryption to scale properly.
Okay.
And the reason for that is, and as brilliant as double ratchet was and is the key exchange for it, and getting like very minorly nerdy, is really done in a pairwise fashion, right? It was meant for one-to-one.
Yeah.
Because that was the use case for Signal. You're like individuals communicating or like a small group, right?
Yeah.
So, but what happens is that every time you add someone to a group, now you just have like, a linear growth and how many, right? And how many pairs of key exchanges that have to happen, which
Yeah.
means that over time that device is going to get a lot of computational load. So you have just this huge linear growth in computational load on your phone or whatever, your
Yeah.
computer. And what that means is that you end up kind of tapping out your capacity on most devices in a couple hundred or so members.
Yeah.
That's fine if you're doing, highly segmented classified work in government or military setting. You're going to have small segmented groups that don't even know about each other.
Yeah.
But if you're an organization and you want to have sort of a private channel, but that might have a lot of stakeholders in it, or you want to have end-to-end security on an announcement channel, there was a real practical ceiling. But there has been, there's a new actually IETF standard that addressed this. It's called the messaging layer protocol.
Yeah.
And it basically came up with a new key exchange method, which uses a tree structure. So the computational load of growing members in a group goes from a linear growth to a logarithmic growth.
Okay.
So it's dramatically more efficient to add group members, which means that like in the case, and so it's actually interesting because so this got ratified as as standard. I think it was like late 2023 or early 2024. And but now it's sort of like, okay, but who can actually offer it? Well, actually, Google RCS now uses MLS.
Oh.
Which is interesting. I think WebEx has an optional version of it. Again, one of the hidden optional sort of things that you have to
Yeah.
work hard to turn on and nobody's going to want to, kind of a thing. But they have it. Wire actually, the founders and the intellectual power behind the company would decide to go all in on MLS. We actually just announced that we have general availability of MLS across all of our products, all features, everything, down to emojis, basically, we joke about that.
Fist bump, fire bomb.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's down to those is now is protected by MLS, and what the practical implication of that is like, our first starting point is saying we've tested and we validate that we could have 2,000 group members, each with up to 8 devices, so like 16,000. So you're going from some hundreds of devices to now, 10, 16,000 devices that can be part of a group, a single group. And in MLS, it's not just per device. There's a separate key structure per conversation. So you could have a device, and as a user, you could belong to like a whole bunch of different groups. Each one of the different groups has a separate key structure. And it has like a lot of really cool things in it, as well as it has what's called cipher suite agility, which basically means within the signaling plane of the protocol, it allows you to define what cryptographic library you want to use. So as post-quantum, truly post-quantum validated, I mean, there's some sort of validated ones now, but as post-quantum cryptography becomes available, you could just say, like, I want to use those libraries for this class conversation.
Oh.
You might not use it for all of them because those are very heavy, right?
Yeah.
But if you have something super, super top secret that you're concerned that some adversary will, somehow get your messages and just store them,
exactly,
so they can break them later with quantum computing, you could do that. So there's a lot of like advantages in scale, post-quantum support, and some other really cool things that allow you to now take what only mainstream enterprise collaboration systems can do in terms of scale and just features. Like there's a lot of nuanced features that make usability feel really smooth and easy, right? And a lot of administrative features. So let's say, but the scale, the efficiency of the MLS makes it possible now for enterprises to consider secure communications as a mainstream platform. not just like as a niche thing that say like only for these little, kind of super sensitive things.
Yeah.
We're now entering the era where MLS is now basically making it possible for apps. And Wire's the first and as far as we know, the only enterprise collaboration app that uses MLS fully and has this level of scale.
Did
And we've
this
done
come out today? I think I saw something like right before I got on a call.
we announced the GA yesterday. The GA, officially speaking, it's already rolled out in many
Yeah.
cases, but full GA will be on the 24th of this month, where everything is kind of going to switch over to that from, and anybody can, whether it's on-prem or in our cloud, can switch from the earlier Proteus, double ratchet based,
Yeah.
protocol to MLS. But this is actually a groundbreaking technology shift that means that secure communications are on the path to becoming the basis for enterprise collaboration because it will have the scale. Like we believe that the design of MLS allows it to get to the tens of thousands plus
Yeah.
members. So that means that you could have an all company announcement channel for a big organization that's end-to-end encrypted. And so what we're starting to see is like the technology is starting to get to a place where it could become normalized that end-to-end encryption is just it's just going to be
Default. Yeah.
it's going to probably take some time for mainstream providers to catch up to that, and they'll still probably put all the wrong backdoors and admin things like that, and they'll probably break the model because that's
Well, it's OPSEC. It's all the operational security rules that you need to enforce. Because it's like, yes, here's a rule book. Here's how you basically do it. But the problem is, it's the enforcement of, admins only, well, again, tiering of admins. There are admins within an organization that can only control within their organization, within the data that's permitted within that organization.
Right. Even within a group, like in
Yes.
Wire, we have the concept, and in security communications generally, you would have the concept of you set up a group, you have group admins.
Yes.
So that they can actually say, hey, do we allow guests in here? Do we allow what are externals, meaning like they're not totally outsiders, but they might be from a part of the organization we don't consider to be insiders. Like there's multiple, you can set classification criteria, stuff like that. So you can, as a group admin, say, hey, do we want disappearing messages? And how long do we want them to last?
Gotcha.
All those sorts of things. So like that's an example of like an admin level that's delegated to the user, which is actually very appropriate, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So in the case of Rippling, if they had a channel that had history and all that, but they could control that within that group and say like, our group guests ever allowed? No. Are we, are we going to, how long are we going to keep the history before these messages like disappear? Exactly. Maybe if it's something sensitive enough, you say, I'm only going to allow these messages to stay around for a day or a week or something like that. And past that, like,
gotcha.
Let it go, as the movie says. So I think there's a lot of that sort of app logic where you want to empower users to have a really delightful experience. For most users, you want security to be delightfully invisible. And that's like one of the key principles for Wire. It's like, let's make this delightfully invisible to the average user. Let's give the admins the right amount of control, and let's give admins the right amount of not having access. You know, if you get those things right and it can scale, then it becomes something that you can just use more broadly. And then you just get into the habit of like, hey, we're end-to-end secure. Why shouldn't your internal communications, even broadcasts, be end-to-end encrypted? You don't want outsiders to be able to
exactly
back open those messages. Those might be important announcements, right? So they should be protected at the very least from outsiders. You should know if you're doing, a call, whether guests are present.
Yep.
What privileges they should be able to have. Like, do they even belong?
Yep. Good point.
But some of these technology sort of advances are now making it possible for enterprises to consider, hey, think about this. If an SMB with 2,000 employees today, you could use Wire as your enterprise collaboration platform.
Mhm.
You could have broadcast channels. You could do everything you want to do, calls, file sharing, messaging and all that, and it's all end-to-end encrypted and incredibly secure. That was not possible to do before, something like Wire rolled out MLS support.
Yeah.
So we're at a kind of an exciting place in the industry.
Yeah.
We're not just playing for like niche use cases.
No,
We're
no,
playing
because
for the
you
big use cases now.
exactly because you're baking the upsec rules into the platform. So
Right.
it's like, in these situations, you can only share, this type of document or this type of information. Yeah, again, I know the problem is it's always down to the individual, and
Right.
you're making
And
sure
that's
it's
why it
like,
has to be by default.
yeah,
It has to just be
has to
there.
be by default. Yeah,
If it's not, then the possibility of using the most advanced encryption is becomes the tree that falls in the forest. Like
exactly. Yeah,
it's like it never happened, right?
interesting. Cool. That makes a lot of sense. That's good.
Another successful Scipio Partners investment. They had some great. They've had some great exits. I wasn't the only one that's a dog. My luck. I should have invested into Wire, but I didn't have time. He did that. And it's an amazing company. I think I'm just excited to see if your chairwoman Diane Manuel and them get behind and do a marketing push. Got to spend the money. People got to know about this. People got to be aware. I can't see companies choosing between one or the other. Forget what's the most secure. Forget everything else. What is my best chance of being secure? Because there's no such thing as full security anywhere
There's
across
no
the board.
foolproof security.
There's no
Right.
foolproof. But you want to have the best lock. You
Right.
want to have the biggest dog in your yard.
Right.
You want to be able to keep that going, and it's important. And I think it's going to be more and more important now, especially in the U.S. I think about the U.S.
Yeah, right. And we're in a day and age where whether it's taking a US centric approach, and just caring about like, hey, our economy, I'm a US citizen, I mean, our economy, our companies, all that, like, and you want to protect what's ours and what's yours, right?
hmm
Or whether or not you're maybe coming from, let's say, the EU and you're suspicious about, surveillance state, kind of like highly empowered surveillance states. And let's be real, the US is a surveillance state because it's a uh, it's a geopolitical like colossus, so it has a lot of mechanisms to protect itself. So you might at the same time say like, I want to have something that protects data privacy and sovereignty. So you may have a real data sovereignty angle to it, or you may just have like a patriotic angle to it. You may have just a hey corporate angle to it. All those things, when you think about like a secure communications or collaboration platform, it can accomplish those goals for you if you get the right ingredients in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're living in some crazy times.
For sure. Yeah.
But it's definitely exciting for you guys. So you guys you're making this announcement on the 24th, you said?
We
That's
announced
GA.
it actually yesterday.
You announced it
yesterday, and then the full GA of MLS will be on the 24th. But it's rolling out. We're rolling out to a number of our large enterprise customers, government customers and such, and big enterprises that many of whom use on their own on-prem or their own private cloud
Yeah.
deployments of our Wire servers. But it will roll out to all of our Wire cloud, including all of our free users will get access to it.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, we have a free tier that does have some millions of users in it, and and then kind of a commercial tier that a lot of small organizations choose it as well. But the money that Wire makes really is from the enterprise and government accounts. So
well, look, I think I told Roland this. 70% of America is small business. I mean, it's going down now; it's getting gobbled up. But at the end of the day, still mostly small business. And you'd be surprised how small business cares about these things. People care. People do care. People don't want to spend money. They don't want to. Nobody wants to spend money on security. They want to spend money on how they can make more money.
Right.
But I think the inflection part, And I think just really pointing at this embarrassing Signalgate thing. I mean, the Signal founder used it, got millions of more downloads.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
Come on. Maybe you can get invited. I mean, it's pretty amazing. It's genius.
Yeah.
What he did. And he's like, why would they use my product?
Yeah. And I think that, the cool thing is Wire does have a free tier, so if you want to check it out and use it, you can absolutely do that. And start being, incredibly secure for that. But we also have
I want to know if Scipio Partners uses that secure tier. So ask your board. Do you guys even use it? Let's start with that.
We know some of our investors do. I do know that some of our investors do. Yeah.
Okay, because that's always a good tell if you're on board and your investors are using it.
Yeah, and yeah. So I think I do think that in general the company and the marketing sort of the renewed marketing sort of push, particularly really targeting the enterprise, is getting resourced, and we are really building a machine to help get the message out and just help people understand better, their options. Which,
you ever thought about partnering with some of these other companies, like even other companies, like even CPaaS companies or anybody else that has these enterprise companies? Is there a way that you guys can actually co-market it? Because it's a heavy lift. It's a heavy lift to educate people. But I would think anybody intelligent who's running a company or founded a company, like, yeah, okay, well, this is my best option. Let me go here.
I think, yeah. So the answer is yes, some of that is already happening. There's definitely things in the works, because I mean, Wire is a German company, right? And so one of the first things that where that's happening is with a group with a very large, very, very, very large conglomerate that's sort of like the Amazon of in some ways of Europe, which is Schwartz Group. Most Americans will not know that name. They are
I know it. I mean, people in business know it. Yeah, no, I mean, everybody knows the Schwartz Group. I mean, they're huge.
Right. And so they have a whole division called Schwartz Digits, which basically is like their version of AWS, right? They have cloud computing, they're all that, but Wire is part of that Schwartz Digits family. So they are, definitely positioning us to their internally, but also to all their partners, because, for example, supply chain security. Think how many hacks have come through supply chain.
Yeah.
Oh, right? Endless.
So they are very concerned about that because they're amongst other things, a huge grocery line. And then they actually also do a lot of direct management of food production at this point. They're considered a critical industry, right? Like food stops moving, it's a big problem, right?
Yeah.
So, and if that happens because of a cybersecurity event,
that's a big marketing point. That Schwartz is partners with you guys. And I think it's something that it doesn't matter. I mean, the analogy of the Amazon of Germany or Europe or whatever is a great analogy. And it's something that you guys should be boasting about. I see the posts and I see the stuff that you guys are doing on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn, you've got a minimal audience. You just got different people telling you how great they are. Or me and Alan yelling about somebody or something.
Yeah, LinkedIn is more of an influencer now. That hasn't, it's no longer a business place. It's more of an influencer space. It seems. Yeah,
a lot of censorship. I get a lot of my posts blocked, but that's another conversation.
It's because it's so difficult to understand what Johnny's saying sometimes. All the emojis,
I use a lot of emojis. I'm an emoji guy because I can't say the words. You know what I mean?
Well, Simon yesterday, said that, Johnny, you're so much easier to understand face to face.
Yeah. I cryptically write things. That's probably why you guys are Wire are like, why is this guy writing posts here? I'm just sending love letters to Roland Dennert. I love him and I miss him. And I'd love to talk to him again. And I'm sure I'll be able to soon. I'll do a follow-up on Truth and Tell, because I think this is a great Innovator Copcast, Alan. I think, look, Wire, you're part of our family. You're part of the TAD Summit community. What is TAD Summit community? Thousands and thousands of some of the smartest people in the industry and some great innovative companies. And look, I think spreading the news towards different, you guys got to figure out a way to get people to leverage what you guys are doing and let them make money off helping people put this in. I think it's wide open right now. Everything's wide open.
I think
People need the solution.
Yeah, I think this is I think we're entering a period in the market where secure collaboration is going to have its day in a way that hasn't been possible before, partly because of everybody's kind of freaked out about all the changes in the world. And, that's waking them up to the fact that you just can't make so many somewhat naive assumptions about security anymore. You just simply have to be more concerned. The danger is as bad as it was as bad yesterday as it is today. But today you feel it more, and I think that's going to create, and we see it creating a lot of opportunities.
Cool.
No, you guys are in a catbird seat for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, you guys are in a really good position, sadly, because of what's going on in the world, but with all the chaos and we don't know who's an ally, who's not an ally, who's getting tariffs, who's not getting tariffs. You can't even keep up.
Right. He's a
friend. He's not a friend.
Huge. We're in a historic shift, right?
Yep.
And that is an environment where the big danger, if you're running IT at a corporation, the big danger is that chaos and that distraction. It actually degrades your OPSEC internally, right?
Yes.
Because people are distracted and upset.
Mm-hmm.
It creates human error openings. It creates and it also all the business level distractions mean that a lot of people may be dropping their guard as well in your supply chain, in your partners, in your employees. So this is a time where you have to think about the impact of that. And how do you make, again, security sort of baked into, part of the furniture rather than, some special thing that people have to walk over and, put on
a document you have to read and remember. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like people don't want to put on an extra pair of clothes. They want to just, it needs to be, you're right. They want it just to be part of the furniture. So
exactly.
they're just do their job and things are secure.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's what you want baked into your assumptions of your IT rather than make people jump through hoops.
Cool, excellent.
Awesome.
No, this has been great. Thank you so much.
I think we'd love to get back. We'd love to get some I think on a technical side. We're here for you guys. We're gonna put this out, and I'm gonna do some follow-up stuff on Truth and Telecoms with you guys. But got to get the word out. Roland, Diane, try to figure out a way you can partner in with some of these different EPAS companies. Maybe we could sell Tintech while we're at it. Like throw it in there for a buck. Anyhow, that's an inside joke. That's an inside joke with me and your board. But look, great company, great people, Schwartz Digits, Scipio Partners, great investors, great technology. Been around for a couple decades now, since inception, almost, right? 2008, Alan, they were on TAT Summit.
Wire was 2015.
2015.
I think Wire kind of was started up in that era of sort of the collaboration.
So you got a decade. You guys have built a solid base, a lot of credibility, and a lot of big customers, and it's important.
Yeah, and as you say, we want to get the word out because it is so important. I mean, we definitely believe in that the mission is to make it so that organizations can, give their users all the sort of like collaboration, productivity that they want, while the organization gets all the data privacy, protection, security that they need, right? Like,
well, your story was brilliant, and no such thing as bad press, and you can capitalize it, and you guys should be banging it. That story should be out more. Nor Alan, repost that story. I think it's a great blog. Capitalize on it because Signalgate's not going away. They're never going to let that story go away.
Sadly, the issues around that are a gift that keeps on giving. I say sadly, it's great from a point of view of marketing. Sad because of what it's exposing. But
well, look, maybe it can solve another problem going forward. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah,
there's all kinds of sad things, but everything can't trip on things behind you. But you can use it.
Yeah, but the reason why it's even happening is because of misunderstanding. Like if anyone who was using Signal for that purpose really understood how dangerous it was, I don't believe they would do it.
Yeah.
But I think there's just, again, just as that.
Listen, I think there's a bigger story here, not to be a conspiracy, but, you know, the head of NPR is on the board of it. And how does somebody just get sucked in? They don't know how the guy got on there. So you don't know who added him. So you're running Signal, and Signal can't say, well, he added him. Who added this writer who was like the worst person? It got sucked in. Was it planted? Could have been, right? So at the end of the day, I think there's more to come here. Yeah. There's investigations going on.
That's a whole other,
No, but it's what people it's what people care about. Yeah. It's what the news cares about. So from your perspective, you don't care.
It's a news story that we'll keep on giving for a while, for sure.
Yeah.
all
Well,
right.
Thank you so much. Say hello to my friends over there.
All right, we'll do. Thanks for the time.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.